fact that it's an EV and super quiet, and it gives you this like really serene ride. I mean, again, the NVH, like I said, is really good in this car. Welcome to Drive Culture. I'm Jonathan Rivers, and today we have the 2024 Honda Prologue, and we're going to go into the exterior, interior, powertrain, and of course, take it for a drive. So if that's content you're looking for, be sure to click the bell to subscribe for more videos from us. And with that, let's get after it. All right, so what are we working with here? This is Honda's first all-electric SUV. So that means it's a pretty big deal. And right away, you can see that it doesn't really look like anything else on the road. Honda did that on purpose, of course, though, to really create a new design language. So tell us down in the comments below, are you liking the look of the Prologue? I'm telling you, as I've been driving this thing around, it gets a lot of head turns. I mean, everybody's like, what is that? You can see the expression on their face. And a lot of that has to do with the exterior design. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those specific details. So the trim that we're talking about today is the Prologue Elite, the top trim, all-wheel drive, dual motor. It's the only way the Elite comes. You can get other trims with a single motor, which is actually at the front of the car, but the Prologue Elite only comes with the dual motors, and that produces 288 horsepower and 333 foot-pounds of torque. So again, it's a very big SUV. It's heavy, of course. It's an electric vehicle, but it gets up, and we're going to talk about that when we drive. Now, one of the things, and I was talking about people looking at the car and checking it out, is this color. So it's called North Shore Pearl. It's kind of this like teal green going on here, and I actually really like it. It's unique, it's different, doesn't shout EV, just kind of looks like a new color on the road, but it is a new color for Honda, and it's exclusive here to the Prologue. Also, right up front, you got to look at the front fascia. It's totally different. It's closed off, right? It's an EV, doesn't need a grille per se. I mean, there are some ducts down below, which are active grille shutters, so they, open and close to help with efficiency. But other than that, everything's shut off, up front. You do have a really cool H badge here, kind of harkens back to some of the older days of Hondas with the black, behind it filled in. And because this is the Elite trim, it's got tons of features on it. So right below the H mark, you'll see the camera, because it has a full surround view camera, and we'll show you what that looks like inside on the screen. But you got LED headlights, daytime running lights, fog lights, and parking sensors down below. Also, this thing has some massive wheels and tires on it. So let's go over on this side. We'll do a walk around. We'll look at the side here and talk about the wheels and tires on this car, because like I said, they are the largest wheel and tire package that Honda's ever put on a production car. This is the 2024 Honda Prologue, and just to give you some perspective, I know it's hard to kind of figure out the size of a vehicle from a video or even pictures, but this car is basically as long as a Honda Passport and as wide as a Honda Passport, but it's much, much lower. The roof line is much lower, gives it a totally different profile. And man, this thing definitely has some proportions and stance, especially compared to some of the other EVs that are out there. So it really gives a different look and feel, and puts it kind of in its own class and segment. So on the side, you can see that this thing has some huge wheels and tires. This is the largest wheel and tire package that Honda has ever put on a production vehicle. Now, as we make our way along the side of the Prologue, you'll start to see some really cool design elements here. So first and foremost, being an EV, you have the electric charge port door. It is a push to open style. We'll show you how that functions later. But again, it has a really, really clean design. So you have these black mirrors, the black treatment along the side of the vehicle, as well as the roof rails, also in gloss black. But let's go ahead. You can see these wheels, and you can have a full view of the side. So again, a really, really cool stance and proportions to it. Definitely looks unique, looks different. And now we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the rear. So here we are at the rear of the Honda Prologue, and there's a couple things we're going to point out. So one, you might see that they actually spelled out the name Honda. So they use this kind of bold typeface. It's a new design, not your traditional H badge. Tell us down in the comments what you think. I know some other automakers have started to do this as well. Let us know what you guys think of Honda's execution on this. Also, what you see is a really premium design. It's very clean, maybe a little Range Rover Evoque. I don't want to say that, but it kind of looks similar, and that's not a bad thing. We're talking about comparing a Honda to a Range Rover after all. But you know, basically, you got some good badging to tell you the name. You got the Prologue, you got the Elite. Like I said, this is the top trim. And over here, you have an all-wheel drive badge indicating that it has the 2 electric motors, as well as this E colon badge. So it's the E series badging for Honda. That together with how they spelled out the name Honda here, that's going to signify electrified vehicles for Honda moving forward. But other than that, it's a pretty clean design. You got some black trim down below, then the silver painted trim here, and again, the rear parking sensors. Like I said, you know, this car is got some really cool design and stance to it, but it's also, again, it's a functional SUV. It does have up to, you know, 1,500 pounds of towing capacity, so you could actually, you know, tow something with this. It's got great space and usability and tons of connected features. So let's hop inside and talk about those things. Here we are with the tailgate up. It is a power tailgate on the Elite trim. Opens pretty quickly, which is nice. Here you can see inside there's roughly like, you know, 24-ish, you know, cubic feet behind the seats. Maybe goes up to 54, 55 if you fold them flat. They are 60-40 split folding seats. The latch is just there at the shoulder and you push it and the seats fold down pretty much flat. And down here we do have some nice underfloor storage, as well as some of your basic kit to, like, you know, change tires and do things like that. So that's the cargo space. Let's go ahead and hop inside now. All right, here we are inside the 2024 Honda Prologue Elite. And it's a great place to be. There's actually a lot of premium touch points, a lot of great connectivity and technology. So let's point some of that stuff out. On the Prologue, like I said, the outside color is North Shore Pearl. You compare that with a few different interior variations. This one is what they call like a light gray. There's an ebony, a black interior, and then there's what they call like a brown interior. But honestly, it's more like a caramel, almost a orangey espresso color, but it does look good. What changes through those different color variations are what you see on the dash. So that white portion there behind the screens essentially becomes whatever the interior color variation is. But you do have a nice steering wheel inside. It's a little bit on the meaty side. It's kind of a chunky steering wheel, but feels good in your hand. It's a high quality leather and materials. There's buttons on both sides. The left side handles all your cruise control and active safety functions. The buttons on the right basically handle audio, menus, and with this being the Elite trim, you do get like a, you know, heated steering wheel. And I'll say that heated steering wheel gets hot really quick. Same thing with the heated seats. There's ventilated seats for both the driver and passenger. And that's what's nice about the Prologue is you've got all these like HVAC buttons down here. They're physical buttons, which is nice, but you can actually also you know, change things in the climate control. So we'll talk about the infotainment here in a second. But yeah, there's a lot of good connectivity. Also, what's nice is that there's just a start button. And I know that sounds silly, but in the EV world, you know, some manufacturers have decided to pull that out, or, you know, you just kind of get in the car and you're supposed to drive away. So it's nice to know that you're in there. And you get in and you push the button and you know it's time to go and the car's on. You do have a very nice digital instrument cluster in front of the driver. It's bigger than like things that are in the Mach-E, and clearly Teslas don't have a, you know, at least the Model Y, Model 3 don't have a screen like that either. So that's a nice touch point. Again, with being the Elite, you got a head-up display. It's good. It's a little big. Again, you have to probably adjust the brightness and the height to your liking. But the center display here is an 11.3-inch high-resolution display. It's touchscreen. There is a volume knob and power knob, which is nice. But again, it's great. It's got Google built in. It's got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, of course, wireless. But it takes over the whole screen, so it looks really nice, very premium. Outside of that, down below in the cup holder area, there's some ambient lighting in this vehicle. It actually lights up in the cup holders and along the dash there, and it's customizable, which is nice. You do have a big tray in front of the cup holders. That's just essentially a pad to put stuff. It's not a wireless charging pad. That's this guy down here. You essentially have a pocket style wireless charger. It's actually the first time that Honda's done it. So That's kind of a nice feature. And then up above, you'll notice you've got two data USB-C ports. So that's interesting. A lot of times manufacturers will just put one data and one charging port. So that's interesting they did that. You do have a 12-volt socket, traditional glove box. And again, overall, it's a very kind of just typical Honda interior, very clean, modern, sophisticated. One thing again is, as we know, this car does ride off of the electric vehicle platform that General Motors supplied, the Ultium platform. With that, you do get some General Motors kind of switchgear in here. It's not horrible. And again, honestly, I think, given that, overall this vehicle still kind of feels like a Honda, the little touch points that might come across as GM don't really bother me. But you do have this kind of like, almost Mercedes, Tesla style switch for the gear selector here. You can see it behind the steering wheel. You basically push the little silver button there on the end to go into park, and then you can pull it forward. But we'll show you how that functions here when we take off and drive. Over on the driver's side door, you do have memory seating for two, as well as like a special exit button there. So that's not a third memory seat. That's actually a specific button to kind of get in and out of the car easily. It's nice. It's a nice little function. You do have, good switch gear for the windows. Everything's, remote power up and down, one touch, which is really nice. And again, the same kind of look and feel over here on the passenger side. Also inside the Prologue, we do have a pretty massive panoramic moonroof that opens up, and it's nice because it actually has a shade and it opens. In this segment, a lot of EVs have gone with the more like, okay, we're just gonna have one big piece of glass over your head effect, and I'm not a huge fan of that because the glass roofs can get hot. Despite the coatings and things that they have on them. So I really like the fact that there's a power shade. I really like the fact that it can open up. So that's a win for the Prologue. Outside of that, we do have a 12-speaker Bose system here on the Elite trim. For typical Bose, it's actually really good. Really good bass, high clear trebles. I mean, it's not going to rival some of the more premium audio systems out there, but it is very good given that it is a 12-speaker system. So that's kind of a quick overview of the front seats. Let's go ahead and check out what the back seats look like. So inside the rear seat of the Prologue, there's plenty of space, good tandem distance, the flat floor being an EV, and you do have some HVAC functionality here. A nice little pocket and two USB-C ports, but these are only charging. But what's cool is you actually have an actual socket outlet there. So you could actually plug in like a laptop or things like that. Two map pockets behind the seats. The seats, as I mentioned before, they do fold flat, basically, 60/40 rear folding seats with the center armrest here. So I'm gonna actually pull this out. So let's take a look at this. So if you pull that out, yeah, kind of typical cup holders there. The center headrest is big and it does raise up, which is nice. I do have a car seat in the back if you wanted to get an idea of what it's like to have your kids in here. Overall, this is a really spacious area, and I didn't have any issue sitting in back. There's a lot of good leg room. Part of it is because the Prologue rides on one of the longest wheelbases in its class. It's basically got like the wheelbase of even a Honda Odyssey. Like it's super long in between the wheels, which gives it that kind of pushed out look, but it also really helps for things like rear seat interior. So in front of the driver, you got an 11-inch digital instrument cluster, and it's really nice. It's super high res and it's customizable. So right now, this is kind of a standard display. It has like, basically a power meter or charge meter, your speed, date, time, the things on the side, the areas there, they can be customized given on, if you want your audio information or things like that. But you can push a simple button on the steering wheel, and then all of a sudden, it changes the entire view. Now, you heard that ring. What that did is that basically put us on Google Maps. And it's awesome because it takes over the entire display here. Admittedly, if you have like CarPlay active, it will actually put even the Apple Maps right in front of you. So that is a sweet feature. I wish more auto manufacturers did this. It makes it so nice when you drive. I mean, obviously there's a head-up display, but to be able to have the maps like this, and then that nice little overlay of your speed as well is really nice. So If you click it again, it takes you to another screen, which is really focused on all your active safety features, which this car has everything under the sun, like most of these cars do today. Collision mitigation braking, lane keeping assist, blind zone alert, rear pedestrian alert. I mean, everything you can imagine is in here. So that's really, really nice. For the center display, we got an 11.3-inch full color touchscreen display. Again, really awesome resolution, super clear. And I really like the tile design. Like, they're super big. The wording is big. It's easy to see even while you're driving. So kudos to the design team there. They did a great job. It's nice because on the left, you've got your own little bank of icons, and it's customizable. So you can move things up and down. You can even drag things over into that section. But again, the whole functionality is that this is, got Google built in. What's nice is, again, being an electric vehicle, is you do get some, EV specific things like this charging icon here, because it can do routing for charging, like telling you where the, closest EV chargers are, how much, battery percentage are you going to have when you arrive, how long it's going to take to charge, and a total trip router, like if you were going to do like a long road trip. So that's really nice. But again, it's a very good display. Again, very functional, very good functionality. All right, guys, since we're drive culture, we got to drive. So we're going to go ahead and take the 2024 Honda Prologue for a drive. You may not notice, but the car is already on. Again, that's the benefit of being an EV. It's purely quiet, which is nice. You only get outside noise from people driving by. It's a super quiet place to be. There's really good NVH in this car as well, which you'll see as we drive here. So I'll go ahead and buckle up. Like I said, the car's already on. Since that's already done, I'm just putting my foot on the brake, taking this stalk here on the right, pulling it forward and then down, and then now it puts into drive. And so what you'll notice is I'm in normal mode. You kind of hear these kind of kind of humming in the background. Part of that is a regulation that manufacturers have to put into EVs so that, like, they're not just completely silent and they don't crash into pedestrians. But let us know in the comments down below. Do you like that sound? Is it a bit much? Tell me how much you can even pick it up here from the video. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take off. Parking brake automatically disengaged. And so you can hear the sound actually gets a little bit louder. Now, the good thing is you'll notice is that sound cuts off after 25 miles an hour. So you don't have to drive around with it all day long. Don't worry about that. But again, the idea is that at low speeds, EVs are silent. And that's kind of like when you're driving through the city, you're walking, people are walking by. Actually, I have some people up in front of me here. So hopefully they hear this sound and move out of the way. That's kind of the perfect test. But it's a requirement for this car and these types of EVs. So, each manufacturer kind of tunes that sound differently. But it doesn't bother me so much. And like I said, the fact that once you get over 25 miles an hour speed, it actually kind of automatically goes away. You pretty much forget that it does it, again, unless you're in a low speed parking environment. But anyway, we're driving here. Like I mentioned before, this steering wheel is nice and thick. If you like that, I know, again, BMWs do that a lot. Have these really chunky steering wheel designs. So that's kind of interesting that Honda went that direction. Like I said, you got all your function and controls right here on the steering wheel. But I can tell you, man, this car has, like I said earlier, those huge 21-inch wheels, and despite that and the wide tires and all that, I mean, this is a really smooth ride. It's really compliant. It's very, very smooth, and like I said, obviously you combine the smoothness with the fact that it's an EV and super quiet, and it gives you this like really serene ride. I mean, again, the NVH, like I said, is really good in this car. So go ahead and turn around real quick here. And again, to turn around, you pull in and pull up to go into reverse. So again, if you've got like a Mercedes or a Tesla, this stalk here won't bother you so much. It'll be different. Some Honda users that are used to like more of a traditional gear knob and lever might be a little bothered by that, but for me, I got used to it pretty quickly. And part of the reason why I think they did that is to really clear up this whole console design down below. It allowed them to have that kind of two-tier floating console design and just give them more space. But it doesn't bother me that much. Again, let us know down in the comments Would you have preferred to have a more of a traditional shifter, something that you could even rest your hand on? But again, as I'm driving this, I mean, again, it's really, really good. Again, I've been lucky enough to drive just about every other BEV on the market today, all the Teslas, the EQS models, Lucids, you name it, Taycan, whatever else. So I've got some experience, guys, driving EVs. And I even have my own level 2 charger installed in my house. So I've charged them up, I've driven them a lot, and I will say that this is really good. Again, has some of the, kind of, oh, there's a warning. That was, a person getting really close, and what it did is it actually flashed an orange light, an icon of a person in front of me to notify that they were getting close. So again, active safety works, and again, like I said, it has just about every feature you could imagine. But I'll get into it a little bit here. Now that we're past some of the people, and I mean, this thing is quick. I know you can say that about all EVs, instant torque. We talked about the power, but one thing we might have overlooked was the battery for this car. So if you're not, since there's no engine, you got to talk about the battery. Now, every Prologue, no matter what trim you get, gets an 85 kilowatt battery. So that's what you're going to get. It doesn't change even if you get the single motor configuration or the dual motor configuration. But it's really good. And I noticed, and I'll even throw a picture in the video, when we first left, I had charged at home, so I had it plugged in. And when I left at full capacity, it was showing 275 miles of driving range, which is really good. The entry trim is going to be over 300, which is, or around 300, which is, I mean, that's, again, you're now competing with Tesla, right? So I think that's kind of what people's expectations are close to 300. And the fact that the top trim with the biggest wheels and all the features still show 275, like, for me, that's enough. Like, I mean, honestly, from where I live in SoCal to get to Vegas, it's about 275 miles. Now, no, I'm not suggesting I could make it there on just one charge, but knowing that I could get, well past halfway before I had to charge is comforting. And, knowing, again, if you got access to DC fast chargers, because, the Prologue, again, can, work with, EVgo, Electrify America, eventually, not right off the bat, there will be an adapter available for the North American charging standard, well, just called the Tesla plug, right? So that will come at some point. But as of right now, it is a CCS combined, charger and plug. So you're gonna have to find one that fits that. But again, if you were to do DC fast charging, I'm sure it would charge pretty quickly. Even on my charger at home, I was noticing that, like, I would just let it sit there, and then, like, after an hour, my home charger, which is a 11.5 kilowatt, it would get about 38 some odd miles to the hour of charging. So I think that's pretty good. You're talking like almost like 40 miles of range in an hour. That's not bad at all, actually. So again, tell us down in the comments below, are you even interested in EVs? Are you can you just not imagine yourself owning one, driving one? Again, for me, I'll tell you what, after driving one, and again, like I said, a lot of different brands and manufacturers cars, you start to find some similarities, right? There's no engine characteristics anymore. There's no really transmission characteristics anymore. So at a certain level, they all do start to kind of feel the same. But what I think the auto manufacturers are doing is trying to find ways to bring out their own DNA, make the cars feel like their brands and their ICE products. And as I look at this for the Prologue, I think it's pretty close. Again, with obviously minus the engine sound. Yeah, I think any customer that's gonna come from a CRV or a Pilot or something like that, or Passport, I think they would be totally comfortable getting in this car and driving. So with that, one last thing I'm going to try is, like I said, there's a sport mode. There's a button down here. So I push sport mode, and we're at 30 miles an hour, and I'll give it a quick dig, and yeah, it gets up. I mean, that's 50. So, but I don't know if you actually picked that up in the video too, is the sound. So in the sport mode setting on Prologue, the sound gets really loud. Again, kind of sounds like a spaceship, a little George Jetsons there going on, but I don't know. I guess that's the the emotion that they're trying to evoke, is that you've got more acceleration, more thrust under your foot. So again, I don't know how well that picked it up on the camera, but let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you even want EV sounds? Do you want music and Jetson sounds playing in the background, or do you just want pure silence? Again, like I said, outside of that low speed regulation, it's kind of up to the auto manufacturer to decide what sound they put in, how loud it is, you know, and it's really up to them to tune it. So now, guys, like I said, as a first quick drive of the Prologue, this thing's really good. It's super quiet, compliant. The ride is good. The chassis is super solid. And overall, like, again, no squeaks, rattles. Build quality is really good. Again, I know Tesla gets a lot of flack for that. They admittedly have gotten better recently, but I would say this is better for sure. And again, I think anyone coming from a typical Honda product, they're not going to be weirded out that this had any you know, co-development with GM. I think they're just going to look at this and say, hey, this is a really good BEV, and yeah, it kind of feels like a Honda. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the video. All right, guys, that's a wrap. What do you think of the new 2024 Honda Prologue? It's Honda's first electric SUV. Did they nail it? Did they miss it? Let us know in the comments down below. Are you even into electric vehicles at all? Also, let us know down below, because if so, we'll definitely review more EVs from all manufacturers to give you more insight as to really what it's like to live with these cars, drive these cars, charge these cars. So thanks again for watching. Be sure to click the bell to subscribe for more content from Drive Culture, and we'll see you at the next episode.